In the midst of a very tense situation, due to the rampage of orc monsters who want to hunt humans, here we see Jin Woo's Shadow Warrior who managed to cut off the enemy's body to protect Jin Ah. The Shadow Warrior then also grabbed the heads of the orc monsters in front of him and slammed them to the floor. Thanks to the protection of these three Jin Woo Shadow Warriors, the lives of Jin Ah and the other students were saved. But since the news of the High Orc Shadow Warrior's appearance had been known by Staru, the enemy boss, unfortunately, now Staru had also begun to move into the human world with a greater threat. The story then shifted to the Hunter Guild Knight team who were still continuing their raid. With Jin Woo's ant army, these hunters were very worried about their safety, as no one knew whether the ant warriors would regard them as partners or enemies. But since they now couldn't stop here in order to maintain the reputation of the Knights Guild, in the end, Park Jong-soo had decided that they would still continue this raid and would try to trust the ant warrior. Back to the battle situation that took place at the school. Here we see one of Jin Woo's Shadow Warriors who has lost an arm in battle against the enemy boss Staru. Staru says that the tattoo on the orc's body is a symbol of victory. From how many enemies they have killed, you must have killed some. But is that all you can do? Come on, keep me entertained again, High Orc Warrior. After saying that, Staru immediately moved to launch a slash, until he managed to cut the body of one of Jin Woo's Shadow Warriors. But when Staru had just bragged by saying, "You have no chance of winning from me," it turned out that the High Orc Warrior he slashed earlier could still rise after regenerating his body. Staru, who was shocked to see the incident, then he again said in his mind, "Is it a skill? No matter how much I cut them, it still doesn't change anything. I should be able to kill hundreds of them easily, but the order to kill humans keeps ringing in my head. Damn, the situation is only going to get worse if I don't get this over with now. If these high orcs are controlled by a skill, then I just need to kill the controller." Upon hearing Staru's order for his subordinates to capture Jin Ah, here the monster orcs began to move to attack the Shadow Warriors first while they were weak while regenerating, until the Shadow Warriors were occupied with a battle that was difficult for them to win. At that moment, Staru managed to catch Jin Ah by grabbing her head, saying, "I knew you were the mastermind. I clearly sensed some magic energy in you." But who would have thought in the second before Staru could kill Jin Ah with his own hands, Staru could suddenly sense that something very frightening was heading towards him. At high speed, it made Staru become silent in fear and immediately let go of Jin Ah. As Staru panicked, he immediately warned his troops to prepare to receive a blow. But before they could act, Kaizel and Jin Woo were already there, and immediately attacked them with a heavy blow. At the sight of Jin Ah, who still looked terrified amidst the dust in the room, here Jin Woo immediately approached Jin Ah and touched her head, saying, "Take it easy. You're safe now." Then when Staru just wanted to say something to Jin Woo, without being able to hide the terrified expression on his face, Jin Woo was so upset, he started to emit a terrifying energy from his body, and pointed directly at Staru while saying, "Shut up and wait there." After Jin Woo made sure all the students were okay, he just realized that there were traces of the enemy's hand on Jin's face. Here Jin Woo was really angry at the monster that had hurt his sister. Then he ordered Gris to take care of Jin Ah, while the other shadow soldiers also immediately evacuated all the students to get out of this place. At that moment, Jin Woo looked back at the enemy with a horrible murderous aura. None of them dared to move an inch. Staru then tried to ask Jin Woo, "Who are you and how can you speak our language?" But since Jin Woo had no intention of answering that question, Staru had no choice but to fight Jin Woo. Then he immediately ordered his troops to start attacking. The orc monsters then jumped at Jin Woo to split his head open with axe weapons. But with ease, Jin Woo immediately grabbed the monster's fingers and slammed it to the floor. Then Jin Woo stomped on its head until it shattered. Meanwhile, two other monsters also began to move to attack Jin Woo simultaneously, showing his cold gaze. Jin Woo immediately activated the Dominator Touch skill to send his opponent's body into the air. Then with just one hand, the bodies of the two monsters were instantly crushed and destroyed. As soon as they realized how powerful and terrifying Jin Woo's power was, all the orcs that were there immediately attacked Jin Woo. But Jin Woo still stood his ground without any fear. Jin Woo continued to launch attack after attack with his bare hands, until he managed to finish off every enemy that came towards him in just a matter of seconds. Then Jin Woo began to walk towards Gorstaru, who was very scared in front of Jin Woo's power. Quickly, Jin Woo grabbed Gorstaru's face with his Dominator Touch skill and threw him against the wall. When Jin Woo saw many students who had been slaughtered by the orc monsters, Jin Woo also wanted to ask Gorstaru why they were all so happy to kill humans. Gorstaru replied, it was because there was a voice in their heads that kept telling them to kill humans. Here Jin Woo once again asked Gorstaru, then what about me? Did that voice tell you to kill me too? Answer my question. Did you also hear that voice when you saw me? Gorstaru was panicked. He immediately answered no. Then he begged Jin Woo to forgive him. Jin Woo said, so you don't consider me human. But even if it doesn't matter to me, that doesn't mean I'll just let you go. At that very moment, Jin Woo immediately took out his dagger to kill Gorstaru without any mercy. The story then went back to showing the situation inside the dungeon, where the Knights Guild team was. Here we see Young Yerim trying to pull the vampire corpse that was eaten by Jin Woo's ant warrior, because the vampire corpse has a high price. But instead of listening to Young Yerim, the ant hurt Young Yerim's shoulder and kept eating the vampire corpse. Beru, who knew that, immediately made him stagger. Then Beru used his healing skills to heal Young Yerim's wounds a moment later. After Beru and the ant warriors returned to continue their hunt, on the other hand, it turns out that Park Jong-soo's hunter team has arrived first in the boss dungeon room. Instantly, a feeling of fear and apprehension began to creep over the hunters' bodies, as they learned that the dungeon boss was a creature called the Archlich. And there were about 10 Death Knights as well. Based on the data owned by Park Jong-soo, there were many dungeon bosses that were well known. But the Archlich had become extremely famous after the extermination of the Gold Dragon Guild. The Archlich was a creature that had once slaughtered an entire large guild in China, causing the dungeon break. The incident was finally stopped thanks to the power of Hunter Liu Zigang. But everyone had agreed that the A-rank hunter troops were no match for this one dungeon boss. In the midst of the panic felt by the hunters, they were also suddenly shocked by the appearance of the resurgent undead army, which had previously been defeated by the ant warriors. Park Jong-soo ordered Young Yerim to block the undead from entering this room quickly. Young Yerim immediately blocked the entrance using Holy Shield magic in the form of a glowing shield. However, since the shield can only last for 5 minutes, unfortunately, that left them out of options. Park Jong-soo felt like there was no way we would survive since Sung Jin-woo wasn't here. Fortunately, Bear was able to sense the boss dungeon's appearance, and he immediately rushed to the room. This is where the situation started to turn around. Once he realized that Bear was the Shadow Army, the shocked Archlich immediately asked Bear why the Monarchs' personal army had come here to attack us. Bear arrogantly replied, it was because we were chosen by the king, while you were not. Archlich, who did not believe Bear's answer, then he intended to talk to the monarch himself. But at that very moment, suddenly Bear was right in front of the Archlich, and directly attacked the core of his body. Then Bear said again, don't talk too much if you want to die. After saying that, Bear also immediately grabbed the enemy's body core and immediately destroyed it, until at the same time as the death of the Archlich in Bear's hands. At that time, the entire army controlled by the Archlich was also wiped out. The hunters who saw this incident, of course, became very surprised and did not expect that Bear could defeat the entire enemy army with just one attack. They also began to think, if Hunter Sung Jin-woo had such a strong warrior, it was only natural that he didn't need to enter the gate, since he could clear a dungeon just by sending his soldiers. Besides, if each of Jin-woo's warriors had above average strength, then he would easily be able to have an army that was stronger than even the major guilds. After realizing how powerful Hunter Sung Jin-woo was, Park Jong-soo's subordinates then said, let's take over Sung Jin-woo's guild. That way, we won't be defeated. But according to Park Jong-soo taking over it, it doesn't sound good. Because it would be better if they formed an alliance with Sung Jinwo. That is, an alliance between the new guild founded by Hunter Sung Jinwo and the Night Guild. Park Jong-soo said that Hunter Sung Jinwo might be able to clear a dungeon with his soldiers. But given that there is a limit to the minimum number of hunters needed to raid, he won't be able to escape that rule. In other words, if we can ally with Hunter Sung Jinwo's Jin Guild, then he will strengthen our combat power, and will give him the necessary number of hunters to start the raid. The story then returns to show the situation at the school. After Jinwo has defeated the entire enemy army, some of the parents of the students involved in the incident looked very sad, knowing that their children were gone. Meanwhile, Jinwo was currently on his way with Chairman Go Gun-hee. Jinwo's expression looked gloomy as Chairman Go Gun-hee delivered the latest report of the incident. The 213 students who escaped from the beginning all survived. Aside from the 10 students who survived thanks to Jinwo's appearance, all of them died, because no one managed to get out in time. Go Gun-hee then gave Jinwo his cell phone, which displayed a graph of the increase in the number of gates that had appeared over the past 6 months. Go Gun-hee revealed that it wasn't even just Korea that was experiencing something like this, but the status of the number of gates around the world has also experienced an unreasonable increase. But according to Go Gun-hee, this is not the only strange thing, because the more gates that appear in the world, indirectly the number of hunters who can close the gate is also increasing. It was as if the world was trying to keep its balance. Jinwo, who heard it, he could immediately realize that something seemed to be changing, but he still didn't know what caused it. When Jinwo asked Chairman Go Gun-hee, "So what did you want to talk to me today, Chairman?" Then Go Gun-hee immediately gave some official documents sent by various countries to request a meeting with Jinwo. Go Gun-hee said, "I know there may have been some representatives from other countries who have contacted you secretly. To be honest, the Korean Hunter Association won't be able to stop them. So we can only protect your personal data as requested. Whether you want to meet them or not is up to you. But if you choose to leave Korea, I'm afraid the country won't be able to adapt to the changes caused by your departure." Meanwhile, the car carrying them had arrived at the hospital where Jinwo's sister was being treated for the previous incident. Here Chairman Go Gun-hee once again wanted to convey to Jinwo that he was ready to do anything in his power to give Jinwo whatever he needed. So no matter what, Go Gun-hee really hoped that Jinwo would stay here and become a Korean hunter. Considering that until now Korea has had a total of 10 official S-rank hunters including Jinwo, but because now this country has lost 3 S-rank hunters, of which 2 of them died at the hands of monsters, while 1 other hunter has left to join America. Of course Go Gun-hee and the association cannot continue to ignore this problem. So that's why they will try at all costs to keep Jinwo in Korea. Go Gun-hee asked Jinwo once again, is there anything he can do to keep Jinwo from moving to another country? Instantly Jinwo's smile began to appear on his face. He said, then in that case I want to enter the high gate rank by myself from now on. Can you let me do it, Chief? Go Gun-hee, who heard that, was very surprised and didn't expect that Jinwo would ask for that, because indirectly, Jinwo had asked him to remove the restriction on the minimum number of hunters to enter the raid. Go Gun-hee explained that the rules were deliberately made to ensure the safety of the hunters. More precisely, to prevent them from entering the dungeon without sufficient preparation. At first, Go Gun-hee was hesitant to grant Jinwo's request, because it would endanger the hunters if they removed the rule. But after Go Gun-hee realized, maybe that was the reason why Jinwo made his own guild. He wanted to do a raid with an attack squad consisting of only 1 person. In the end, Go Gun-hee agreed to fulfill Jinwo's request by saying, I admit it's difficult, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to make it happen. So you can leave it to me. Well, so this is the whole story of this solo leveling season 3 video episode. Thank you for watching until the end. Stay tuned. The next video update